Good evening and welcome to Service to Humanity. My name is Hafsat Mustafa Hadija, standing in for your regular anchor. On tonight's episode of the program, we have an interview with the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Bashir Nura Alkali, where he gave an update on the Npower Batch C while further clearing the air on the payment of backlogs to some beneficiaries in Batches A and B. Stay tuned for the details alongside reports of other events from the ministry when the program kicks off fully. Don't go away.
The Npower program is key to helping young Nigerians acquire and develop.
The federal government of Nigeria remains committed to including and protecting persons with disabilities to guarantee that no one is left behind.
I see that we are going through challenging times, and I see this woman running all about the country trying to help our people, because this lady is doing a very good job for our country.
Thank you.
Thank you for all what you have been doing for us.
Service to Humanity starts with news updates from Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. In our first news, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk, presented the government of Plateau State with relief materials worth about 100 million naira from the federal government for onward distribution to victims of gunmen attacks in the state. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk, presented the government of Plateau State with relief materials worth about 100 million naira from the federal government for onward distribution to victims of gunmen attacks in the state. The materials were handed over to Governor Simon Lalong at a brief ceremony at the 3 Division Barracks in the Bassa local government area of the state. The minister said the materials were in fulfillment of the commitment made to the governor when he visited the president and sought assistance for victims of the incident. The items consist of food and non-food materials such as roofing sheets, nails, cement, rice, maize, soap, and mattresses, among others, and are meant to assist the people to get back to their feet. Appreciating the gesture, Governor Lalong said the circumstances leading to the situation made the occasion a solemn one because of the loss of lives and property. In another development, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, one of the agencies under the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, has begun the distribution of food items to 3,978 internally displaced persons in Adamawa. NEMA's head of operations, Adamawa/Taraba office, Alhaji Meidela Ilia, stated this at the inauguration of the distribution exercise in Fufore town, Fufore local government area of the state. Ilyas said that the assorted food items will be distributed to displaced persons at Malkohi, Santa Risa and Fufore IDP camps under the federal government's food intervention program. The items will be distributed to 663 deserving households with the projected population of 3,978 persons to cushion the suffering of the IDPs. He urged beneficiaries to ensure effective utilization of the items to feed their families, even as he retweeted commitment of the agency to provide life-saving assistance to the displaced persons.
My name is Chukwuemeka Brightanyanwu. I'm from Imo State. I was lucky to be selected as a beneficiary in Npower program. I was a graduate without a job, so I decided to go learn something to take care of myself. I learned how to make clothes, and I've been trying to build a business out of it. But when I came here, it's not just this programming we have been taught, we're also being taught digital marketing. Since I came here, it has been awesome. I've learned a lot of things that I never knew I could do before. But now I can successfully build a website, as in be proud of it that this is what I learned from Npower. I didn't know anything about HTML. I didn't know anything about, I've not even heard anything called CSS before, although I've heard HTML, but I've not heard anything about CSS. But I didn't know anything about JavaScript, that it was a language on its own. But since I came into this program, I started with HTML, Because of the wonderful teachers that we have, they know what they are doing actually. They took us like novices, they started from the scratch. Now I can gladly say I'm a programmer. I can write a code that works. I can design a web page using normal HTML and designing it with CSS and making it active with JavaScript.
You are watching Service to Humanity, bringing you updates from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Like I mentioned earlier, we had an interview with the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Bashir Nura Alkali, where he spoke on a wide range of issues. In our next segment, we shall bring you portions of that interview where he spoke on Npower and efforts to give the NCIPs legal backing. Let's hear him.
The Npower is one of the 4 clusters of the National Social Investment Programs of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. It represents its efforts to alleviate poverty by empowering young people between the ages of 18 and 35 through employment, training, and monthly stipends to set them up by being gainfully employed when they exit the scheme after 2 years. The program, which started with about 500,000 beneficiaries in the Batch A and B, started in 2016 before the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs was created in 2019. The ministry in 2020, therefore, took on the task of exiting the Batch A and B in preparation for the Batch C. However, about 14,000 beneficiaries from those batches had issues with their payment. Permanent Secretary Bashir Nura Alkali explained why this happened and what the ministry did to clear issues around their payments.
If you are aware, we had a Batch A and B prior to the ministry being set up. The Batches A and B are about 500,000 beneficiaries. Now, those beneficiaries have been exited by the ministry, which is supposed to have been the usual practice. Now, in the process of exiting them, the verification and validation had to flag up about 14,025 of them for various reasons. Some of the reasons included, but are not limited to, the fact that some were actually taking 2 stipends from federal government agencies, which actually violates the rule for which beneficiaries are supposed to be enjoying this particular stipend. So the 14,000 of them were flagged off by the GIFMIS, which is the Government Integrated Financial Management Information Systems in the Office of the Accountant General. Now, we had worked on those ones and about 9,000 of them had been cleared. If you are aware, we had issued even a press statement saying that we had already commenced payment of those 9,000. The other 4,000 are still undergoing further investigation until we clear them and make sure that what they did was either a one-off thing. It's not a case of you are taking the Npower stipend and still taking another stipend from federal government agencies, which is wrong.
Speaking more on the Batches A and B, the Permanent Secretary explained some of the issues around the proposed Npower exit program that is in the works for beneficiaries that exit the scheme.
Ideally, the Npower beneficiaries were supposed to have been exited after 2 years. So if you were onboarded in 2016, you should have been exited in 2018. If you are onboarded in 2018, you ought to exit in 2020. But along the line, that wasn't done. So you find, fortunately for them, some Npower beneficiaries that were onboarded in 2016 actually continued to receive their salaries up to their stipends up to 2020, meaning that they had been on the program for about 4 years instead of exiting after 2 years. Those are the people we combined and tried to exit, early this year.
Permanent Secretary Bashir Nura Alkali also gave an update on the Batch C stream where he explained that the onboarding process has been completed and the new beneficiaries have been posted to their various places of assignment. He spoke also of the process.
These beneficiaries passed through a very rigorous process. They were asked to log on to our platform to apply. This was even since last year. Last year, almost 6 million intended beneficiaries logged onto the system applied. A process of validation, elimination was done, and now 510 have actually been selected, the beneficiaries. They are all on the what we call our NASIMS platform, spread across the states, and their onboarding has been done. They have all been sent to what we call the PPA, places of primary assignments across the states. And that is where we are. We are working with agencies like NOAA, which is National Orientation Agency, the NYSC, because of their presence across the states.
With the approval given by the President to increase the number of beneficiaries, the Permanent Secretary speaks of the next step for the ministry.
You may be aware that the President has graciously increased the number from 500,000 to 1 million. So we are hoping that very soon we will start what we call the Batch C Stream 2 for another 490,000 to make it 1 million. Now, very soon we will start the onboarding process, and those that are interested may have an opportunity also to apply.
So what is the ministry planning to do to avoid some of the issues that the Npower Batches A and B had, especially with exiting the program?
Already, the ministry has thought of an exit plan. Now we are working with some agencies, trying to work with some agencies, NDE, CBN, and other agencies, such that we would not have the delay that we had last time. And in any case, we've just been trying to exit this Batch A and B beneficiaries. So working with these other government agencies, it will be a bit more seamless this time around to now exit these beneficiaries, without so much delay that the previous exercise caused. So I do not believe we are going to have a similar issue subsequently.
On the Npower program and other clusters under the National Social Investment Programs, the Permanent Secretary speaks on efforts to institutionalize them.
The social investment programs that are now domiciled in the ministry, we are working closely with the National Assembly. In fact, the National Assembly had started engagement, to make sure that these programs find the backing of the law to be domiciled within the ministry. And we've had the first set of discussions. The Committee on Poverty Alleviation is now handling that issue. We've had preliminary discussions. They are now going to call for public hearings to get other views and then engage relevant stakeholders that will give input to what the ministry is trying to do.
That was the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Bashir Nura Alkali, speaking on Npower amongst all the social investment programs. One thing that readily comes out of the arrangement for the Batch C beneficiaries is the thoroughness with which the ministry went about the recruitment exercise. Our crew monitored the physical verification in Ogun State and spoke to some of the beneficiaries on their views on the scheme. Let's take details of that exercise in our next segment, coming up after the break.
Across the 6 geopolitical zones.
They should use this money for what it is meant for, graciously to take care of their family.
In 36 states and the FCT. over 6.4 million of Nigerians poorest of the poor in about 1.3 million households receive conditional cash transfers of 5,000 naira monthly under the Household Upliftment Program of the federal government. Their joy knows no bound.
And the government very well because they did well for us.
It helped me to do any other thing, my family.
Reducing absolute poverty, promoting shared prosperity through the Conditional Cash Transfer Initiative. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in service to humanity.
Beneficiaries of the Npower Batch C underwent the physical verification exercise across all the 20 local government areas in the Gateway State. The exercise was conducted by the officers of the National Youth Service Corps in all their local government offices in the state. The exercise involved the scrutiny of original and photocopies of beneficiaries' certificates while biometric details were recorded.
All what you uploaded for the
The State Commissioner for Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, who is also the focal person for all the NSIP in the state, Femi Ogumbanwo, speaks on the Npower program in the state.
For instance, the Npower, people are having challenges to do the verification, but I think they are overcoming some of these challenges. We learned that the verification exercise will end on Friday. We are supposed to have a meeting with the Federal Ministry on online meeting on Wednesday. Of course, we are planning to raise issues with them and plead for an extension so that all the people could register. For instance, in Odogolu local government, where maybe only about 20% have registered so far.
Some of the beneficiaries spoke on their experiences during the verification.
I'm here for the Npower verification, the thumb printing. We already did the online registration, so we are told to come to the Shagam local government to do the thumb printing, the physical one.
We are here for the physical verification. So we got a message that we come to Shagam local government for verification, and everybody was here. We are here with our document and our required thing they ask for the verification. That's why we are here.
According to them, the benefits of the Npower program are enormous, as it will not only impact positively on their lives, but also that of their families.
I've been a full housewife for the past 9 years without no job, no good business to do. I believe with this empowerment, I'll be able to save up some finances to start up a business after the program ended.
This program, I believe myself and other people that were opportune to gain from this will be able to make our own impact into the society through our services to wherever we have been posted to.
The Commissioner for Special Duties also speaks on the support of the state government towards the successes of all the national social investment programs in the state.
For instance, homegrown school feeding. The governor approved that we should give all the cooks free cooler, cooking utensils. We give them clothing, all for free. We are not charging, of course, how much are they earning that we'll be charging from. And I know the thing ran into millions of naira. The same thing, conditional cash transfer, there are a lot of trainings before we are eventually enlisted.
Still under the end tips, we take this final report of the ongoing distribution of utensils to various states for the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. Keep watching.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, Sadia Umar Farouk, has flagged off the distribution of feeding utensils for the National Homegrown School Feeding Program in Jigawa and Kebbi State respectively. The school feeding program is one of the key interventions of the federal government under the National Social Investment Program, which seeks to boost school enrollment. In Kebbi State, where utensils were handed over recently, the minister was represented by Muhammad Bashir Nura Alkali, the Director Procurement of the ministry. While performing the ceremony, the director said the program is designed to address poverty issues in a collaboration between the federal and the state governments. He spoke on the benefits.
The design equitable benefit of this program and its impact on the lives and livelihood of individuals, groups and communities is very clear. The number of children attending school will increase. They will perform academically better. The local women will be employed, while the local farmers will sell their produce, and wealth will be created and distributed within the communities.
The Kebbi State Governor, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, was represented by the Commissioner of Education, Alhaji Muhammad Magawata Alero, appreciated the federal government and the ministry for the program. He said the program has gone beyond school children to the community at large.
We will continue, God willing, to partner with CRE and other stakeholders to see that we deplete the out of school children to the barest minimal.
Head teachers of schools as well as students and food vendors all lauded the school feeding program and the federal government.
Ajia Sadia Umar Farouk, we want to thank her for her up and doing to see that school homegrown feeding has been so much successful in the northern part of the country. We thank all that are present here today for their ability to be with us. Thank you so much.
The commitment of our leaders have made this achievement possible, without which nothing would have happened.
Tana iya bakin kokarinta domin ta taimaka ma ɗaliban makarantar firamare da abinci. Wannan ba ƙaramin kokari ne ba gwamnati ta yi. Don haka muna godiya Allah ya saka da alheri.
In Jigawa State, the Permanent Secretary Bashir Nura Alkali represented the minister to flag off feeding utensils under the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. While performing the ceremony, the Permanent Secretary explained that the federal government is donating 150,000 feeding utensils to the Jigawa State government for the use of school children. He commended the state for being outstanding as regards to the implementation of the National Social Investment Programs.
Always wants to be present in all these occasions, especially for the National Social Investment Program. And she was particularly insistent that I should thank you and His Excellency the Governor, because Jigawa State has been one of the most outstanding states in respect of the homegrown school feeding program. So I'm just delivering her message. Please let us keep it up. Only that, contrary maybe to what the chairman said, some states like Kano may not come here to
Your Excellency, may wish to recall that
Usman Chamu, the Jigawa State focal person, while speaking, said in the past the Jigawa State had received 542,000 feeding utensils, which was shared amongst schools. He also gave a rundown of efforts of the state government as it relates to implementation of the NSIP's program, while speaking of the state's efforts.
The Jigawa State government complements what the federal government is doing by feeding primary 4 to 6 and the federal government feeds only primary 1 to 3. We are at present the federal government feeds 225 beneficiaries of 1 to 3 pupils, and as at present our data has been approved to the tune of 552,000 students will be paid from this payment, inshallah.
This is where we end this episode of Service to Humanity. I will be back next week with more reports and updates from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Keep a date with us and stay safe.